Hello everyone, I am Storyteller. Thank you for visiting this peaceful place. I know you are looking for something soothing to help you fall asleep, and I am here to accompany you. If you enjoy, please give me a like and subscribe, and let me know where you are from. Thank you. VISE. News Real Talk. The art of soul swapping. New research proposes a radical solution for the estimated 13 million people who unwittingly lost their souls in last year's Black Friday mishap. While hell isn't offering refunds anytime soon, a soul swap isn't out of the question, says Sam Ackerman, sole author on the study and CEO of ExoSouls. His paper, titled Devilish Details, a sparse Bayesian learning framework for enhancing the ExoSouls algorithm, is published this week in Chaos, a non-linear journal of translational science. In it, Ackerman claims to have unraveled the 2-for-1 soul swap terms and conditions of the Philadelphia Screamer. He then introduces a machine learning model designed to identify likely victims who have yet to come forward, as well as predict the likelihood of unsouled souls going to hell anyway. Ackerman goes on to suggest that when combined with his proprietary ExoSouls algorithm, this novel framework can accurately pair last year's Black Friday victims with unsouled, hellbound souls, a finding that could give hope to millions. Vice's own Brett Love spoke with Ackerman while putting his updated soul swap theory to the test in real time. This interview has not been edited for clarity or length because hard-hitting journalism has no filters. Q&A with Brett Love and Sam Ackerman. Brett Love. So, how about you tell me why I'm stuck in Philadelphia traffic with a conch shell in my front seat? Sam Ackerman. Great. Right to the point. So, that conch shell is there to help you hear the screams of the damned. Cupping your hands to your ears is also an option, but that's more prone to error. I don't know if I like the sound of that. No one does. Now, as for the Philadelphia traffic, we need a bit more context for that one. You remember last year when the real Burning Man, who screams eternal, or simply the Philadelphia Screamer. Most people just call him Phil now. Sure, let's call him Phil. Anyway, after Phil showed up last year, screaming and burning and chained to the William Penn statue atop Philadelphia's City Hall with that Black Friday offer flaming across his torso, people were understandably curious. So, of course, someone flies a drone up there to get a closer look at this giant chained to the Will Penn statue. And forgive me for the recap, but let's not forget how incredible that moment was and still is today. I mean, he's bound there, like Prometheus, except instead of eagles tearing out his liver only for it to regrow, there's a flaming message that burns to life again and again, letter by letter, from neck to navel. It's Hell's version of a flashing neon sign, and it says, "Two souls take the place of one in Black Friday's shadow. Make your wish known, and they shall pay the price." Right. And who can blame people for thinking it's your classic 2-for-1 Black Friday deal? Exactly. Last year's tragic miscalculation really just came down to otherwise honest folk simply hoping to cheat Satan on one day of the year with no consequences whatsoever. They thought they could make their wildest wish come true while sacrificing the souls of two of their worst enemies. When you think about it, the choice of holiday makes perfect sense too. Halloween is too on the nose, and Christmas is off limits. But Thanksgiving is, well, it's a gobbledygook of whitewashed genocide and glorified capitalism. So why wouldn't Satan want to piggyback on that? Just look, and you'll find him in the eyes of crazed consumers everywhere, in that Black Friday aftermath of filth left behind by the world's worst holiday. Wow. You really hate Thanksgiving. What about cranberry sauce? You'll cut out that last part, right? I don't want to turn off potential ExoSouls clients, sure. But you still haven't told me why I'm stuck in Philly traffic this Black Friday. Oh, right. So we already covered Phil, and the rest comes down to word origin. Before Black Friday found its way into the common parlance, it was used by Philadelphia traffic cops who were fed up with the crowds after Thanksgiving. This was back in the 1960s, so it all comes down to a simple misunderstanding. And hell probably wasn't trying to be nefarious here. I mean, they sent their screaming giant to Philadelphia, after all. They just thought that's where Black Friday applied. So they thought it was still 1960-something, even though Phil arrived in 2022. You're talking about relativity and time dilation, right? Yes. No. Not really. Listen, the theory of special relativity is a wonderful lens for examining the wonders of the universe, but it likely holds no meaning in hell. Perhaps whoever sent Phil is forced to experience a distorted sense of time passing on Earth to further highlight their own eternity in hell. A form of time torture, if you will. But that's just speculation, something that future research could explore. Regardless, my current research strongly suggests that Hell's Black Friday deal only applies to Philadelphia traffic. What do you mean by suggests? I mean, I'm about to test your soul swap theory here, so you're sure, right? Please don't call it swap. I never mention that term once in my paper, and I don't know why. The media keeps throwing it out there. This isn't the movie Freaky Friday. We're not switching souls or bodies or anything like that. Say exchange if you must, but it's in the company name, ExoSouls, with exo meaning external and souls meaning plural. It's a simple 2-for-1 exchange, and at no point do you swap souls with anyone else. Now, do you have the ExoSouls app installed on your phone, Brett? Yeah, but I'm asking if you're sure your soul swap. Is your theory correct? Listen, there are 1,000 different researchers giving 1,000 different reasons for last year's Black Friday mishap. They blame it on wildly irresponsible statistics, poor reading skills, TikTok trends, rising obesity rates, or excess levels of tryptophan. But not one has demonstrated as high a degree of correlation as I have. I'm sure you've already read the paper, but let me offer a quick recap for those who haven't. We know for a fact that people who have turned their souls see themselves with their eyes sewn shut every time they look in a mirror, while most hellbound people don't advertise that about themselves. We also know that there was a spike in self-reported eyes sewn shut sightings last year, likely due to outrage over misinterpreting Hell's Black Friday offer. Now, I used those reports as a starting point for constructing my sparse Bayesian learning framework while accounting for normal levels of dishonesty. In addition to identifying unreported victims, my model also identifies those with unsold souls who have high hellbound risk. However, the truly surprising finding comes when looking at the distribution of likely victims. It's a fairly regular distribution. That is, it's standard for places other than the city of brotherly love. More specifically, for places devoid of Philly traffic. What I'm saying is high-traffic Philadelphia areas are almost blank spots on that distribution map of likely victims from last year's Black Friday mishap. That's where people were able to take advantage of Hell's 2-for-1 offer, because that's the area that corresponds to Hell's definition of Black Friday. It's an incredibly strong correlation. And that's why you're stuck in Philly traffic this Black Friday, Brett. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think so. Maybe you could give a quick refresher on correlation versus causation. No, we don't want to risk traffic clearing up on us. Just Google ice cream drowning deaths after the interview. So, without further ado, could you please open the ExoSouls app, Brett? First, I've got to ask, why are we doing this over the phone? Why wouldn't you agree to a face-to-face interview? Selling one's soul can't be done in company. If you open the app, I'll guide you through it. Okay, app is open. Hey, nice interface. Kind of like Twitter, with less hate speech. And I just looked in the rear view mirror. I can say with relief that the eyes of my reflection aren't sewn shut. Well, we haven't done anything yet. To verify, can you tell me how many active users you see in the ExoSouls app? I see 437. Now it's 443. Hang on, shouldn't the numbers be doubling with the 2-for-1 soul swap? Good. I see those same numbers. And remember, it's not a swap. The numbers aren't doubling for a couple reasons. First, not everyone is selling their souls simultaneously. Second, a number of users regain their souls with each transaction. Obviously, the total number of souls sold must increase over time, which is great for exosouls in terms of active users. But wait, you said some users regain their souls? Could you explain? You know it's reversible, right? It's in my chaos paper. I even mention it in the abstract. Sure, yeah, I know. But it may be worth explaining for the sake of the interview. Okay, traffic is looking steady, so I'll give a quick example. Hell's Black Friday 2-for-1 offer requires 3 souls. 1 soul to take advantage of the offer, and 2 more souls to pay the price. So, let's call the souls A, B, and C, and say they're all stuck in Philadelphia traffic. Imagine that A makes its soul-selling wish, which marks souls B and C as bound for hell when their time on earth is done. Now, say B, whose soul has already been sold, still wants to take advantage of the 2-for-1 offer. Hell owns B, but Hell doesn't care about individuals. Hell's goal is to simply gather as many souls as possible, so it would gladly trade B for 2 unclaimed souls. Soul A is still unclaimed, but we need another unclaimed soul to make B's transaction possible. That's where soul D comes in. If souls A and D reach out to Hell and offer their souls in place of B's, Hell can't refuse. Sure, it loses a soul, but it also gains 2. And Hell must grant B a wish for the 2-to-1 offer to still hold true. Within this scenario, the first wish led to 2 hell-bound souls, while the second wish results in a total of 3 hell-bound souls within the group. You can see that the number didn't double in this instance. Of course, that number could easily keep doubling if everyone keeps making the selfish decision. But that's the beauty of the ExoSouls app. Its algorithm was already working to balance mutual and self-interests. But this latest enhancement connects Black Friday victims with likely hellbound to boost cooperation and user engagement. Does that answer your reversibility question, Brett? Yeah, and then some, but I mean that in a good way. You have me convinced. How do I get started? Let's see. The algorithm wants you to sell your soul in the traditional way first. That means no taking advantage of the 2-for-1 offer just yet. After that, ExoSouls will pair you with 2 unclaimed souls, so you can regain your soul. Wow, I hesitate to use the word luck, but this is a rare instance in my experience. At the risk of sounding redundant, I'd even go so far as to say ultra rare. Brett, you get to make 2 incredible, near back-to-back wishes and still keep your soul this Black Friday. Oh man, I haven't thought about what I want. What do I click to make it happen? Haha, you don't click anything. ExoSouls points you to the best possible outcome. But this next part is low-tech, a tried and true method, as old as mankind itself. First, what you want to do is pick up that conch shell from the passenger seat and hold it to your ear. Then, I want you to listen for the screams of the damned. Okay? I've got you on speakerphone and the conch shell to my ear. Do you hear the screams yet, Brett? Maybe. But that could just be Phil on top of City Hall. I think he's nearby. Forget about Phil. Think about the worst moment of your life. Relive it. Imagine that conch shell is a calcified ear that can hear your innermost thoughts. Whoa, I hear it. Jesus Christ. Keep that shell to you ear, Brett. Now tell me, how does traffic look? Oh God. Focus, Brett. How's traffic? Okay. It's nearly at a standstill. Good. Now, I want you to close your eyes nearly all the way until you're looking through your eyelashes. Then, stare at your reflection in the rear view mirror. Are you doing it? Yes. But I don't like this anymore. Don't stop. You're nearly there. Promise your soul for your heart's desire. I don't know what I want. Just wish for the first thing on your mind. There are no wrong answers here, Brett. If it's in hell's power to grant it, you'll get your wish. Oh man, I did it. The shell is silent and... oh God, that's awful. What do you see? I see my own eyes sewn shut in the mirror. How is that possible? Yeah, no one ever gets used to it. But the good news is I'm working on augmented reality glasses to add eyes to mirrors for those who've sold their souls. And the even better news is you've managed to successfully sell your soul. Now, exosouls should find a pair of unclaimed souls for you soon here. We're up to 643 active users, so maybe some are right next to you in traffic while we wait. And if you don't mind me asking, what was your wish? Well, it's kind of silly, but it was the first thing that came to mind. I wished for the traffic to clear up, and it's already moving at normal speed. Amazing. Although I guess I kind of wasted my first wish. You did a lot more than that. Do you somehow not understand words? For Christ's sake. You asked me twice why you were stuck in Philadelphia traffic. Shit. Can we try again next year? Well, what other option does everyone else have? Except for you, Brett. Sorry, but the ExoSoul's algorithm has banned you from the app. Good luck and goodbye, Straitjacket. Chrissy. Yates pocketed the last of her equipment and squinted her eyes, the way a predator is in on its prey. Oh, come on, she thought, her nervous gaze darting between her watch and the sanatorium door. Impatient, she stood herself at the entrance, which was one of corrugated iron. It was an almost baleful presence, and one that only chose to admit the most intrepid of investigators. Beware ye who enter. Paranormal investigation was no hobby of Chrissy's. It wasn't something she did for one Friday evening's amusement. It was her life, much to the annoyance of her fiancé, Todd. Why can't you do something normal? He pleaded. Like book club? Chrissy scoffed at that, quietly terrified at how suburban Todd was becoming. She found it baffling how her and Todd, once throwing darts at a world map to see where they would travel, could now only sight a scoot around in the Kroger parking lot as the most adventurous thing they had done together. They were now completely different, on a cellular level. Fundamentally, Chrissy was a rebel. She was a free spirit, a girl with twigs and berries in her hair, a girl who cried whenever you killed a ladybug by accident. But here, she had lost her iridescent shell and become a scrawny ribbon of beige, a sculpture of suburbia-shaped pulp. She had failed, resolutely, to rebel in the big ways, which is why she found herself always trying to hold her own in the small ways. You're late, Chrissy spat at her soon-to-be husband, tapping her watch. Good evening to you too, Chris. Todd pecked Chrissy on the cheek. Here, they looked comically incongruous. Chrissy, forever undertaking these new challenges with relish, and Todd breathless after the hour-long walk from their apartment. Let's just get this over with, shall we? Said Todd, with a smirk on his face. Where's Milo? Didn't you get his message? He can't come. What is that grin for? You know how much this means to me, Todd. I know, Todd reassured her, taking her hand. I know. Never had swapping opinions about a chick lit with a group of soccer moms over a bottle of cheap sorority rosé looked so frightening to Chrissy. Good, she announced loudly, betraying a sudden strength of character beneath her sallow skin. Let's do this. Almost immediately, Chrissy produced a flashlight, its crisp, cylindrical beam throwing sharp shafts of light over the dripping gloom, and a room that was now a rich repository of the past, a place that was once a refuge for any woman, its intake striding anyone from a widow with night terrors to a sexual deviant denouncing her family's Catholic faith. Chrissy read that at its peak, the sanatorium was home to up to 200 people. It was a number Chrissy almost found comforting. These women, united in their combined will to escape, now seemed more powerful than ever. Are you sure we should be doing this, Chrissy? Asked Todd, trailing his fiancée. What do you mean? We can do what we want. No, but I mean, should you be doing this? I don't want to talk about that now. I know, but shh. What was that? The only sounds available to their naked ears were the scratch of their footfalls against the frost-crusted twigs and the steady plip of water, the hallmarks of any B movie. The noise Chrissy managed to hear presented itself again, something anyone else would put down to the movement of a rat. Did you hear that? When Todd shook his head, Chrissy looked back, and aided by the dwindling light of her pathetic torch, saw a battery of glazed leporine eyes. "Oh my God, Milo!" Chrissy exhales, her breath white with frost. "What are you doing here? I thought I'd make a last-minute appearance," Milo, Todd's longest and closest friend, said. "Keep you on your toes. Did you know about this?" Chrissy spat to Todd, her cheeks surrendering any of their remaining color. "Why are we here again?" Milo asked, comically unprepared, wearing just a shirt and jeans. Todd shrugged his shoulders. "Ask her. She wanted to come here. She must have told you a reason." "There is no reason, Milo. You know this." "Actually, there is a reason," Chrissy corrects Todd. "If you must know, my mother was here." "Your mother?" "Chrissy." "What?" Todd asked, confused. "You heard me. Just before the place shut down, she was admitted here." "You never told me." "I don't think you ever asked, Todd." Shall we move on, more determined than she had ever been? Chrissy stalked deeper into the darkness. "So why was your mother here?" Milo asked, closely following Chrissy. "Milo!" "No, it's fine, Todd," replied Chrissy, grateful for the question. "I don't know exactly how she came to be here. She didn't tell me. But when her dad died, her mom married again, and he started sexually assaulting her, raping her." "Oh, shit." "Yeah. And if that wasn't enough, she was abused by her own husband, my dad. But no one believed her. That would drive anyone into the loony bin." "Chris, do you really think this is a good idea? Maybe we should go home," Todd advised. "No, Todd. If you want to go home, that's fine. I'm staying." Chrissy's determination seemed almost thunderous in this confined space. It was a quality she inherited from her mother, a woman who the naysayers tried to force her into the identikit mold of the abused woman you might expect to see plastered on your TV screens and newspapers, blue and bloody beside the dishwasher. Instead, she was a born-again freedom fighter who learned her life lessons the hard way, like an up yours to a traditional fable. It was no wonder that Chrissy had such a difficult childhood. But she, much like her mother, refused to be packaged as a woman, fighting on the behalf of anyone who had ever been brutalized, anyone worn threadbare by abuse, anyone still haunted by the nightmares. Sharp, serrated pinpricks of terror, a spider-webbed mirror, a shard of glass, a calloused palm, the girl who used to throw bricks at street lamps and through store windows for nothing but her own amusement, who used to grieve as easily with laxatives as with a bottle of wine, and who used to hide the ladder of cuts on her arm, was no longer that little girl. Chrissy wasn't scared anymore. She had conquered her fear. She wanted to talk about her past, even if Todd didn't want her to. Todd liked to sugarcoat things and cower behind the happy illusion that things were better than they actually were. He wouldn't allow them to tackle issues head-on. Say one of their golfing friends clad in one of those Argyle sweaters, mid-slurp of Long Island iced tea, mid-bite of a crustless cucumber sandwich, brought it up. Todd would swat it away and insist that it was only temporary. If Chrissy wanted to talk about something as mundane as what they were having for dinner, that would be fine. But if she wanted to talk about how she came to be in a psychiatric hospital when she should have been spending her gap year in Phuket, like any other student, then that would, of course, be off limits, which was why she had to come here, to this very hospital. "Oh my God, what is this place?" Milo asked, weirdly curious. "This," Chrissy replied, happy to answer, "was where they did the whole electroshock therapy thing." Milo shared a confused look with Todd. "How do you know that?" Chrissy smiled wryly. "I just do." Chrissy couldn't help imagining her mother in this room, putting her legs in stirrups and placing herself at the mercy of a masochistic doctor. "We are going to scour it out of you," he would spit, forcing a wet sponge between her lips. He would have her return a vegetable, someone who squeezes a nurse's hand to tell them you're still alive, someone who slurps liquidized food through a straw and shits in a bucket. With renewed determination, Chrissy crouched down to the floor, where it was dark and slippery, strewn with machine parts and moldy baby clothes. She reached into her backpack and produced a tumbler, a pen, and a piece of paper. "What are you doing?" Todd asked, his eyes following his partner's movements. "I wasn't planning on doing it here," Chrissy said, frustrated. "But if you would just work with me, then maybe we could—" "No," Todd objected immediately. "If you're doing what I think you're doing, then I'm out." "Oh, come on, Todd." Milo was surprisingly game. "Don't be such a buzzkill." "Last time I did it," Chrissy resumed, "I could hear my mother's screams. You know, I could really talk to her." Todd shook his head defiantly. "No, I'm not doing this." Chrissy switches off her torch and holds aloft a pack of candles before striking a match and lighting them. The feeble flames curl and sway and lick the dusty air. "Are we ready?" Chrissy asked, bathed in an ombre of red and black. Milo gestured to Todd to sit down. Finally, Todd acquiesced, taking them both by the hand so Chrissy could commence. "Great. Thanks, Todd. That means a lot." Chrissy began by setting an upturned tumbler on the paper, before reaching into her jean pocket for the yellowed, crumpled remains of a photo of her mother and her crooked smile. A smile that, once upon a time, seemed to generate its own light, one that lit up everything around her. "Don't break the circle," Chrissy instructed the two men. "Whatever you do, do not break the circle." "Okay," Milo said, his voice trembling slightly. "Don't worry," Chrissy said warmly, forcing a note of levity, noticing that his voice had ascended an octave. "That's exactly what I was like when I first tried it." Todd and Milo looked at one another once again, almost in awe at Chrissy's newfound pastime. "Mom," Chrissy said, looking upwards, as though to some external force. "If the answer is yes, please slide the glass to the right. And if the answer is no, please slide the glass to the left. Okay? Mom, are you with us? All eyes swiveled to the glass. Chrissy pursed her lips in nervous anticipation before looking up again, only a few moments later, to see the glass moving in Todd's direction to the right, its rim scraping across the floor. Hiya, Mom. Oh my God. Milo tried to retract his hand. How did you... Shh. The glass moved back to the center. Mom, I'm gonna ask you some questions, all right? How are you doing this? Milo demanded. Todd silenced him with the whites of his eyes. Mom? Chrissy called out, trying to re-establish the connection. Mom, are you okay? The tumbler moved to the right again. Chrissy smiled. Milo turned to Todd, who he thought would be on his side at this point, given this was his first time as well. But he too was riveted to his spot. Joe, Mom, if you're still there, could you please write something for us on this pen and paper? Chrissy indicated the pen and paper in the center. The glass stirred yet again. Ting, ting. That's amazing, Mom. What would you like to tell us? The ballpoint was picked up and floated in mid-air before starting to glide across the page, leaving in its wake a long and inky sentence. Tell them what they did to me, Chrissy. Tell them what they did, as a draft, wispy as a trail of jet exhaust, wafted across the room. All withering eyes, in unconscious tandem, moved in Chrissy's direction. The glass shattered. The whole room descended into a sudden flurry of accusations. And finally, the circle broke apart. Jesus Christ, Milo shouted, mopping his forehead with the back of his hand, trying to make sense of everything. What just... I don't know, Todd answers, looking to Chrissy. I don't know. Chrissy's lips folded into a smile. I told you it worked. No. Milo stood back, his eyes wide with fear. That is some nasty voodoo shit. Come on, Todd. She's crazy. Crazy? Chrissy said, feeling the cold fury hoard in her chest. You think I'm crazy? Seeking the exit, Milo ran headlong into the darkness, the scrape of his footfalls dissolving with his screams. He won't get very far without a flashlight, Chrissy remarked. He's right, Todd said, jerking to his feet. You are crazy. What? I don't know what's happened to you in these past few days, and I don't really care. But this has got to stop, Chris. It's this obsession. It's not normal. You don't think I'm normal? Do you understand what I'm saying? Todd screamed, his throat taut with desperation. I mean, do you really understand what I'm saying? This, he continued, grabbing her jaw, spittle landing on his cheek as he enunciated each word, is not normal. Go then. I don't need you anymore. My mom's here. Oh, for fuck's sake. Your mother isn't here. Chrissy so desperately wanted to prove her fiancé wrong. Oh, really? Chrissy could only sit and watch, as the man she loved doubled back and wailed in pain, falling to the ground with a terrific thud. He reached for his foot, as though to favor his leg, much like a wounded animal. What the fuck? Todd tweaked his trouser leg to reveal a 3-pronged scratch on the back of his leg. Did that hurt? She asked, savoring this moment. Something changed in Todd's expression. His surroundings suddenly felt hazy and distant, as though on the other side of a glass wall. "You're insane, Chrissy," he said, struggling to his feet, running for the exit. "You're insane." This was Chrissy's cue to look back in her bag and find her EMF meter, holding it out in front of her. It made a distinct clicking noise, its crackle like the one that heralded the beginning of a Western or a grainy VHS tape. "Mom, he's gone," Chrissy said, checking Todd had definitely left. "It's just us now, I promise you. Just us." Chrissy sank to the ground and tried to keep an absolute silence, so that all could be heard was the solitary metronome of her EMF meter. "I'm here now, Mom. I'm here." Click, click, click. "Well, beyond the fence. I'm gonna take a freight train down at the station, Lord. I don't care where it goes. Gonna climb a mountain, the highest mountain. I'll jump off, nobody gonna know. The Marshall Tucker Band. I'm so angry. I did my best. I really did. That road from the army base where we live now, running out west towards that looted Costo outlet near Corvallis, is littered with abandoned cars and trucks, all rusting out, tires flat, gas tank lids and caps open. I know all the places where you have to go off-road to get around them, but there are always things you just can't predict. The law of unintended consequences, they call it. That's what happened to me, I guess. I became an unintended consequence. I don't know. Maybe that's not right. I'm not thinking very clearly right now. Molly, too, my Staffordshire Terrier. She was an unintended consequence as well, maybe. I guess. I felt worse about her in the end, honestly. I loved Molly so much. Those little fuckers. I hate them so much, and now I am them. The old Toyota 4Runner was running pretty smooth despite the degraded quality of the fuel that was left to us, and it only bogged down on me a few times during the drive, but never stalled out. When I reached the parking lot, I came to a stop by the loading docks, like always. I grabbed the cut-down Remington 12-gauge and stuffed the box of pumpkin balls into my jacket pocket. Normally, I would have left the driver's side door open, but I had to keep Molly inside. I certainly wasn't bringing her in there. The rear door to the Costco was still propped open, just like it always is, and I found the battered old orange hand truck sitting right there in the corner, just like it always is. Things looked much as they always did. I couldn't hear anything, but I still kept the shotgun pointed directly ahead of me as I entered the store floor from the back room. I clicked on the small flashlight mounted to the barrel with some electrical tape and squinted into the darkness. I waited 15 seconds, then another 15, and then I entered. I left the hand truck right there and proceeded very slowly. It was my turn to do this today, and I never argued against it when my turn came. But Kaylee was my only remaining child, and I had to get back to her. I was in no big rush. I simply had to do my job and get back. I'm just so angry now. I really messed this up. I took a can of baked beans off the closest shelf and threw it as far as I could down one of the aisles, and then I shuffled back a few steps to see what would happen, listening for the sound of footsteps, ready to run if there were too many. I heard nothing. I waited 15 seconds, then another 15, and then I moved forward. A short time later, I had the first load of supplies stacked up on the hand truck. I left it there and checked the back room again with the flashlight beam on my shotgun, and then checked the back parking lot for a moment just to make sure everything was cool out there too. Seeing nothing of concern, I hauled the first load of supplies out and loaded them into the back of the 4Runner as quietly as possible. When I returned, I took all of the same precautions. I made no assumptions, but again, everything seemed clear, so I went ahead and gathered up the rest of the supplies. In the end, I had canned foods, batteries, bottled water and juice, toilet paper, napkins, Tylenol, garbage bags, t-shirts, vitamins, and a few other things. There wasn't very much left at that Costco by that point, but we didn't go much further into the more previously populated urban areas until it became truly necessary. Again, I checked the back room and the parking lot before I hauled the hand truck out through the loading dock door and placed everything in the back of the old Toyota SUV as quietly as possible. Then I heard the sound of something being knocked over, coming through the rear door of the Costco outlet. It sounded metallic, maybe a bucket or a garbage pail being tipped over, or something like that. I pointed my shotgun in that direction for a second, and then jumped into the driver's seat of the Toyota and drove off. I had what I came for, and Molly was barking like crazy. It would take at least 5 or 6 hours, maybe more, to get back to the base, and I had already traveled at least that same amount of time, just getting there earlier that day. I would definitely have to refuel from the tanks in the back soon. I was ready to push on through, but when it started raining, I knew it would take much longer, and it would be much more dangerous. I had to rethink my plans. I knew a place. It was more important that I just got back to Kaylee than getting back right away. I knew she would be scared if I didn't return that night, but that's obviously better than not returning at all. My sister Amy would comfort her as much as possible. I wasn't looking forward to my night either, but Amy would take care of her until I got there with the supplies. Like I said, I knew a place. It was just past a highway exit sign for Langhorne Avenue. That sign has a red letter X spray painted across it. Everyone knows what that means. Just past that exit, along the side of the road just before you reach Redmond, there is a little sleep spot we sometimes use when we have to. It has proven safe. It used to be a small electrical substation, just a little 8x12 steel structure, about 10 feet tall, that once housed some power transmission equipment. At some point, someone gutted it out, and you can still see the old components rusting there, just outside of the door, the tall grass growing up through the cracks. I pulled the Toyota around in front of that old substation, but I kept the engine running, and I stayed inside for a little while, and used my binoculars to search the surrounding area for signs of movement. The sky was gray and the sun was setting, but I saw nothing of concern. So eventually I grabbed the shotgun and my travel bag and got out of the SUV as cautiously and quietly as possible. I left the driver's side door open, despite the light rain. I didn't want to make any unnecessary noise, and if I needed to make a quick escape, that could make the difference. Once Molly and I were inside that old substation, I quickly closed the door behind me and dropped the zip-tie bundled rebar bolts into place. Then I stood there by the door for a while, holding my shotgun, but I didn't hear anything outside, and eventually I relaxed a bit. They don't like the rain, but you never really know. The filthy old mattress was a welcome sight. I sat there as I ate a cold can of Chef Boyardee raviolis. They were so delicious, and I took my time. It was a treat. I had dog food and water for Molly, too. She was happy as well. Afterwards, I laid my sleeping bag out on the mattress, and Molly and I fell asleep to the fading sound of rain pattering off the steel roof. It was nice. A few hours later, I was awoken by the sound of Molly's growling and barking. She was standing by the door, and I could hear the sounds of screaming and scratching coming from the other side. I grabbed my shotgun and pulled Molly back, breathing heavily, hoping the door would hold. I checked the rebar bolts. The door seemed solid. After a while, the rain picked up. The violent sounds coming from outside faded away, and then I set the shotgun down and returned to the bed. It was hard to find sleep again. I stared up into the darkness for a while. It was just over 3 years ago when it all began. A facility in the woods of northern Montana where they housed and performed tests on children who had been exposed to experimental biochemical weapons in various locations around the world. Things were fine there until they were not. The confused and sometimes conflicting news reports at the time mostly said that there was an antivirus that was administered to those kids on a daily basis. But one day the supplies ran out. Then, by the next morning, that facility was overrun. Blood and gore. The fences went down. But what no one knew until then was that it was contagious. Most people past the age of adolescence quickly succumb to it, but not everyone. No one really knows why. It all happened very quickly, and then it was all over, and I mean all of it. Everything. The world is very different now. This part of the world, anyway. I really don't know what it's like elsewhere. We don't receive news reports anymore. I eventually fell asleep and woke up a few hours later with Molly cuddled up by my side. I fed her some kibble for breakfast, and then I ate a granola bar and drank a bottle of water and packed up my gear. I looked out through the 2 small peepholes before leaving the safety of the substation with Molly by my side. The rain had stopped, but it was still gray and cloudy. I guess I made a little too much noise unbolting and opening the door. As soon as we stepped outside, I heard the clattering from behind the substation and on the low rooftop overhead. They must have just waited out there all night. I didn't know they were capable of that. I thought they just retreated back into the woods once they quit the hunt. Molly paid the price, not me. I hate myself for that. I hate myself. When they pounced, I fired my shotgun twice and blasted 2 of them in the chest and put them down. Both teenage boys, stark naked and filthy, with elongated nails and teeth, long straggly hair, moving with predatory speed. Unfortunately, there were 3 more who fell on Molly. 2 adults and a kid. I was about to take another shot, but they were all over her. And trust me, she was fighting back like a fucking monster. But I just saw no way to not hit her as well. After a few seconds, I realized she would soon be dead anyway. So I just unloaded my remaining 4 shells and killed them all, including Molly. I was so angry, but I started crying right away. I'm still enraged. They made me kill Molly, those little fuckers. As I was making my way to the driver's side door of the Toyota with my head down and staring at the grass through my tear-blurred vision, that's when the last one got me. He was just a little kid, maybe 10 years old. Perhaps that's why he held back when the others rushed in. I don't know. Who can say? Who knows how they think? I guess I will know soon enough. It's already starting. He came around from the back of the lift gate and dove at me and bit me on my forearm. There was only the one quick bite before I turned around and smashed him in the forehead with the butt of my Remington. But as soon as I got into the forerunner and closed the door, I could see that he had drawn blood. I wiped it off with my bandana and poured some rubbing alcohol on it. I was scared, but I still had some hope. I had my fingers crossed, but I still had some hope. That hope faded quickly along the drive back to the base. I feel sick now. I feel very sick, and it's just getting worse. My head is starting to pound, and I feel like I might need to vomit. My teeth and gums and my fingernails and toenails are all starting to ache. My vision is changing, and my throat is dry. I'm starting to make some involuntary growling sounds, and I cannot stop gripping the steering wheel with all of the strength in my hands. I want to just get out of the Toyota and run. It doesn't even matter where. I was planning to just drop off these supplies by the front gates of the base and then leave. But it's still at least a 2-hour drive, and I am afraid of who or what I will be by the time I get there. I think I have to just turn around right now and drive in the opposite direction for as long as I possibly can. I have reloaded the Remington, and I am keeping it handy. I am sweating and drooling pretty hard now. I can't help it. My clothes are also starting to feel extremely uncomfortable. I think I might need to pull over and remove my shirt and boots soon. Maybe my jeans too. I don't think I can take this too much longer. I keep looking at the woods along the side of the road. I just want to run off into the trees. I want to scream. I want to eat something while it is still breathing. Mostly, I just want to end this before it gets worse. I know that I will never see Kaylee again, and even more than what happened to Molly, that's what makes me feel so sick. I'm sure my sister Amy will take good care of her, but still, I just feel so sick. I keep looking at the woods and at the Remington. I just have to keep driving for a little bit longer now. The radio stations all went dark years ago, and there's only one stupid old CD stuck inside the dashboard stereo in this Toyota for me to listen to as I drive, the Marshall Tucker Band. So I turn it up. What else am I going to do? The hum of the motor is hurting my head, and the lyrics seem right. I'm gonna find me a hole in the wall. I'm gonna crawl inside and die. But no, I don't think so. That would be too easy. I think I'm gonna die with my boots on, and I'm definitely gonna bring some of you little bastards with me. Get ready to eat some of these 12-gauge pumpkin balls. It's not going to be pretty. I'm gonna cut some of you little demons in half while I still can. As many of you as possible until my ammo runs out. I owe that much to Kaylee and Molly and Amy and all of the others. I see a red letter X spray painted on the exit sign up ahead. I'll be there soon. You'll know when I arrive, you little fuckers. Trust me, you'll know. Discarded skins. I remember finding the first one in my closet. I was grabbing a shirt, already late for work, when my hand brushed against it. Warm, rubbery, and yielding in a way that made my stomach churn. I yanked my hand back and stared at the thing draped across the hangers. A limp, hollow version of me, sagging, the husk of discarded scrap. Its face, my face, stared back, lips parted in a silent plea. The eyes were in empty, gelatinous voids. I stumbled backward, heart pounding. What the hell? My first thought was a prank. Maybe someone had broken in, made a grotesque model of me, and left it here. But no one had keys except me, and the precision was unnerving. The scar on my chin from a childhood fall, the crescent moon birthmark under my collarbone. It was all there, rendered in grotesque detail. I grabbed it by the shoulder and shook it loose. The whole thing collapsed into a heap on the floor, as weightless as air, but uncomfortably warm to the touch. The closet smelled faintly of salt and decay. I shoved it into a trash bag and tossed it in the dumpster before driving to work. The image of its slack jaw burned into my memory. By noon, I'd convinced myself it was some sort of vivid hallucination brought on by stress. Too much caffeine, too little sleep. But then another appeared. This one turned up under my bed. I was searching for my phone charger, and there it was, sprawled in the shadows as if it had been waiting. The hollow replica of myself, limp and sagging, carried a new, unsettling alteration. The left hand was missing 2 fingers. When I examined my own hand, my stomach lurched. My pinky and ring finger felt cold, numb, almost alien. I spent the rest of the night awake, pacing. The discarded skins weren't hallucinations. By the end of the week, I'd found 4 more. One in the passenger seat of my car, another hanging from the shower rod, dripping as if freshly peeled. Each time, they became less complete. The one on the couch had a gaping hole where the stomach should have been. The one in the garage? Its legs ended in frayed, uneven stumps. The air around them carried a faint static charge, buzzing against my skin. Each discovery left me more hollow, more off. My reflection in the mirror didn't feel right anymore. My movements lagged, mimicking a glitching video feed. And then there was the itching, deep beneath the skin, under muscles, along my spine. At night, I lay rigid in bed, clutching the sheets as my body writhed with an electric discomfort I couldn't scratch away. It came to a head when I decided to burn one. The 5th skin had appeared in my kitchen, slumped in front of the fridge as though it had crawled there to die. I dragged it into the backyard, my hands shaking, the trash bag hissing against the grass. The lighter fluid splashed across its surface, glistening with an oily sheen. I lit a match, my breath hitching as the flame licked the edge. The smell hit me first, a sharp, acrid reek that turned my stomach. Then came the pain. It began in my fingers and tore through my nerves, jagged and relentless as barbed wire. I dropped the match and crumpled to my knees, screaming. A creeping pressure surged beneath my skin, straining it to the point of tearing. The fire hissed and died, the skin untouched. My hands trembled as I ran my fingers along my own arm, and that's when I felt it. A seam, almost invisible, running along my wrist. I tugged at it instinctively, and a sliver of my own skin peeled back. Beneath it, I saw something. Not muscle, not bone. A gleaming dark mass, rippling with a life of its own. By morning, the itching became a torment. My flesh crawled with a million tiny, unseen legs, gnawing from the inside out. I refused to look in the mirror. The reflection had grown wrong in ways I couldn't articulate. Bloated, pale, stretched over bones that no longer seemed mine. My skin hung loose and clammy, as if it had been boiled and left to cool. The newest, discarded skin sprawled across my bed, twisted and lifeless, a corpse dissected and abandoned. Its lips twisted into a leer that mocked every natural expression I'd ever made, teeth crooked and too large for its face. The jaw sagged open, dripping a viscous fluid onto my sheets, the stench acrid and metallic. Its hollow sockets bored into me, accusing, demanding. I couldn't bear it. Something inside snapped. I slammed the door, dragged the blinds down until the room was a darkened tomb, and staggered to the kitchen. My hands found the knife before my mind caught up. The cold steel trembled in my grip as I returned to the mirror, heart hammering. The reflection stared back, and I almost didn't recognize it. The eyes were sunken pits. My lips, cracked and scabbed, quivered against yellowed teeth. My skin, gray, translucent, and slick with sweat, clung to my frame, taut and unnatural, as if it might split at any moment. My fingers shook as I dragged the blade to the seam on my forearm, the line that had appeared days ago, mocking me with its symmetry. I pressed and sliced. Pain erupted, white-hot and electric, but it wasn't what I expected. The sensation burrowed deep, raw and satisfying, scratching an itch buried beneath the skin. The blade slid through the flesh, parting it in a jagged, bloodless line. The skin didn't bleed. It peeled, curling back in thick, mucus-slick layers that made my stomach churn. Beneath it, something pulsed, a living, glistening black mass. The surface shimmered as if oiled, twitching in time with a heartbeat that wasn't mine. It smelled of iron and something sharper, something alive. Breathing heavily, I dug my fingers under the edges of the peeling flesh and pulled. The old skin came away in long, rubbery sheets, each strip making a wet slap as it hit the floor. My jaw clenched against the growing agony, but I couldn't stop. My muscles burned. My vision swam, but I ripped and tore until the ground was littered with fragments of my former self. When I straightened, the thing in the mirror took my breath away. It stood tall, its surface an obsidian ripple of sleek muscle and unearthly symmetry. Tendrils of faint light coursed beneath its surface, illuminating veins that pulsed with a rhythm that felt powerful, infinite. Its eyes glowed faintly, their intensity alien but familiar. They stared back at me, not with fear, but with hunger. The itching was gone. The weight, the sickness, the exhaustion, all gone. What replaced it was sharper, stronger, undeniable. I flexed my fingers, now black and fluid, watching them ripple and contract. Beautiful living shadows. The old skin on the floor quivered, lifeless and grotesque. A shed chrysalis. These weren't warnings. They weren't signs of decay or disease. They were preparations. I hadn't been dying. I'd been transforming. The knife dangled in my hand, forgotten, as I gazed down at the heap of who I'd been. My lips curled into a smile, sharper and wider than it had ever been before. I turned away from the old me, opened the door, and stepped out into the waiting night. The Enchanted Reflection. The boutique hummed with the frenetic energy of post-Christmas sales. Shoppers jostled for space, arms laden with discounted luxury goods, their voices blending into a discordant symphony of complaints and excitement. Sarah Jensen stood behind the counter, her forced smile threatening to crack under the weight of another 12-hour shift. Her reflection in the glass display case stared back at her. A pale, tired face framed by hair that refused to cooperate, despite the expensive products she used. "Miss, excuse me, miss." A sharp voice cut through the din. Sarah turned to see a woman, her arms stacked with silk scarves, glaring at her. "Yes, ma'am. How can I help you?" she replied, her voice coated in faux cheer. "These are marked as 40% off, but they're ringing up wrong," the woman snapped. Sarah bit her tongue and nodded, mechanically punching the register. The scarf woman wasn't the first difficult customer of the day, and she wouldn't be the last. As she resolved the issue, Sarah's gaze flicked to the far end of the boutique. A figure lingered by the antique mirror display. A woman draped in a long coat, her dark hair veiling her face. She seemed out of place among the boutique's usual clientele. Her movements were deliberate, almost hypnotic, as she traced her gloved fingers along the edge of a large gilded mirror. "Miss Jensen!" The scarf woman's irritated bark snapped Sarah back to reality. She completed the transaction, apologized for the inconvenience, and handed over the neatly bagged scarves. When she looked back, the mysterious woman was gone. In her place, on the counter near the register, sat a package wrapped in shimmering silver paper. Sarah frowned. "Did someone leave this here?" She called to her co-worker, Heather, who was restocking handbags. Heather glanced over, shrugged, and returned to her task. curiosity got the better of her. She picked up the package and turned it over. Her name was scrawled across the silver wrapping in elegant script, Sarah Jensen. Her breath caught. What the? Secret admirer? Heather teased, smirking. Sarah flushed. No idea. She hesitated, then carefully peeled back the paper. Inside was a wooden box with delicate carvings. She unlatched it, revealing an antique hand mirror nestled in velvet. It was breathtaking. The silver filigree frame was adorned with tiny, intricate designs, flowers, vines, and what appeared to be a pair of eyes etched at the top. The glass was oddly pristine, almost luminous. A shiver ran down her spine as she gazed at it. The shop's fluorescent lights dimmed for a brief moment, flickering just enough to make her look around uneasily. Spooky, Heather said, her tone light, but her eyes wary. You gonna keep it? Sarah's fingers lingered on the mirror's handle. She wanted to say no, to put it back in the box and leave it there, but something about it called to her. Yeah, she said softly. It's beautiful. Heather shrugged and returned to the handbags. Sarah slipped the mirror back into its box and placed it in her bag. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of customers and complaints, but Sarah couldn't shake the image of the woman at the mirror display. As she locked up for the night, she glanced over her shoulder one last time. The boutique was empty, save for the faintest impression of a handprint on the glass of the largest mirror. Sarah settled into her apartment, a modest one-bedroom filled with mismatched furniture and an air of functional neglect. The antique mirror sat on her coffee table, its polished silver glinting under the dim light of a single lamp. Her cat, Milo, circled the mirror, sniffing at the velvet-lined box before retreating to his perch by the window. You don't like it either, huh? Sarah murmured, pulling her blanket tighter around her shoulders. She couldn't explain why she had brought it home. Something about the mirror tugged at her, a mix of unease and fascination. She reached out hesitantly and lifted it, her fingers tracing the intricate designs along the handle. When she finally looked into it, her breath hitched. The face staring back wasn't hers, or at least, it wasn't the face she was used to. Her reflection was flawless. Her skin glowed with a porcelain smoothness that seemed almost too perfect. Her lips were fuller, her eyes brighter and more alive. Even her hair fell in soft, elegant waves, like something out of an advertisement. She touched her cheek, half expecting to feel the warmth and suppleness of the reflection, but her fingers met the usual uneven texture. Her reflection smiled faintly, though she had not. Her stomach twisted. She set the mirror down quickly and rubbed her eyes. Long day. I'm losing it, she muttered, but curiosity gnawed at her. She picked it up again. The reflection was the same, perfect. Yet as she studied it, she noticed something disconcerting. Her eyes, they weren't quite right. Behind the radiance lay a coldness, an almost predatory gleam. She tried looking away, but her gaze kept returning to the glass. A soft knock at the door jolted her, breaking the spell. She set the mirror down and crossed the room, peering through the peephole. Lisa stood on the other side, her arms laden with a bottle of wine and a bag of takeout. Thought you might need cheering up, Lisa said as Sarah opened the door. She kicked off her boots and plopped onto the couch. Sarah forced a smile. You didn't have to do that. Lisa shrugged. You've been weird lately. Figured you could use some company. As Lisa unpacked their dinner, her eyes landed on the mirror. What's this? Just something someone left at the boutique, Sarah said quickly. Weird, right? Lisa picked it up, turning it over in her hands. It's gorgeous, Antique? Probably. Lisa tilted the mirror toward herself and frowned. This thing's creepy. It's like... She trailed off, her face tightening. Like what? Lisa handed it back hastily. I don't know. It just gave me the shivers. You should sell it or something. Sarah laughed nervously. Yeah, maybe. The two settled in, eating and catching up, but Sarah's attention kept straying to the mirror. After Lisa left, she found herself sitting alone with it again, the room unnervingly quiet. She picked it up one last time before bed. The reflection was still her, but the longer she stared, the less she recognized the person in the glass. It wasn't just the perfection. It was the way the image seemed to breathe, to shimmer faintly, as though it were alive. A single word echoed faintly in her mind. More. Startled, she dropped the mirror. It landed with a dull thud, unbroken. Shaking, she turned it face down and left it on the table. But even as she crawled into bed and pulled the covers over her head, the whispered word seemed to linger in the air. The new year arrived quietly. Sarah had spent the evening alone, ignoring calls from Lisa and other friends, unable to shake her preoccupation with the mirror. It remained on her coffee table, face down, but its presence loomed like a living thing. When she finally picked it up again on January 2nd, the reflection stunned her. It wasn't just her idealized self anymore. Her face in the glass had changed subtly, but undeniably. Higher cheekbones, a sharper jawline, and eyes that gleamed with a confidence she had never possessed. The strangest part? When she stepped into her bathroom and looked into the plain, unenchanted mirror above the sink, she saw the same changes. Her real reflection matched the one in the antique glass. She traced the contours of her cheekbones, marveling at their new definition. Her skin was clear, her lips fuller, her hair shinier. It wasn't as exaggerated as the reflection in the antique mirror had been, but it was unmistakable. The compliments began almost immediately. Did you do something different with your hair? Heather asked at work. You're glowing, a regular customer remarked. Even her boss, who usually ignored her, took notice. Looking sharp, Sarah. Keep it up, he said with a rare smile. At first, she basked in the attention. For the first time in her life, Sarah felt seen, appreciated, envied. She began to carry herself differently, walking with her head high and a sway in her step. Her wardrobe, once utilitarian, shifted to highlight her changing figure. But there were side effects. Her energy waned. Simple tasks left her winded, and dark circles began to form under her eyes, marring her otherwise flawless appearance. No amount of sleep seemed to help. Are you okay? Lisa asked one afternoon over coffee. I'm fine, Sarah said, brushing off the question. You don't look fine. You look tired and pale. Lisa leaned closer, concern etched into her face. Seriously, Sarah, have you been to a doctor? Sarah shook her head. I don't need to. I'm just busy. Lisa's frown deepened, but she let it drop. At work, Sarah noticed something odd about her coworkers. Heather, who was usually full of energy, appeared drawn and sluggish. Their boss seemed frailer, his usual booming voice reduced to a rasp. Even the regular customers looked subtly diminished, less vibrant, their laughter less frequent. The change was subtle, but once she saw it, she couldn't unsee it. That evening, Sarah sat alone in her apartment, clutching the mirror. She didn't want to look into it, but the compulsion was irresistible. When she finally turned it over, her reflection greeted her with a knowing smile. The face was stunning, almost inhuman in its beauty. But the eyes were wrong. They gleamed with a cruel intelligence, and for the briefest moment, Sarah thought the lips moved, mouthing a single word. Mine. She gasped and dropped the mirror. As it hit the floor, the room seemed to shudder. Milo hissed and bolted under the couch, his fur bristling. Sarah clutched her chest, her heart hammering against her ribs. When she dared to look at the mirror again, it lay face down, unbroken. In the silence, a faint whisper slithered through the air. More. By mid-January, Sarah's transformation was undeniable. Her appearance had become the very image of the idealized reflection she'd seen in the mirror. She drew stares everywhere she went. Admiration from strangers, envy from colleagues. But the cost was becoming impossible to ignore. Lisa had stopped visiting, her once lively face now gaunt and shadowed. The boutique was eerily quiet, its usual hum of activity dulled by the fatigue of the staff and customers alike. Even Milo, her ever-loyal cat, had grown lethargic, curling into tight balls of fur in dark corners, avoiding her entirely. Sarah's own health was deteriorating. Though her face remained flawless, her body felt like it was withering. A deep, bone-weary exhaustion gripped her, making it hard to even climb the stairs to her apartment. That night, Lisa showed up unannounced, her face pale and her eyes sunken. "We need to talk," Lisa said, pushing past Sarah into the living room. She froze when she spotted the mirror on the coffee table. "Sarah," Lisa began, her voice trembling. "Something's wrong. I've been feeling sick ever since you got that thing." Sarah's stomach twisted. "It's just a mirror." "No, it's not." Lisa grabbed her by the wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. "Do you even hear yourself? You look like a goddess, but you're barely standing. Everyone around you is falling apart. Look at Milo." Sarah turned to her cat, curled motionless in the corner. Panic gripped her. She picked him up, his tiny frame alarmingly light. Lisa gestured to the mirror. "It's that thing. You need to get rid of it." Tears stung Sarah's eyes. "You don't understand. I can't. It's..." Her voice broke. "It's killing you," Lisa said, her tone firm. "And it's hurting everyone else too." For the first time, Sarah truly looked at the mirror, not at her reflection, but at the object itself. The silver filigree seemed darker, tarnished, and the glass shimmered faintly, almost as if it were breathing. She grabbed the mirror and hurled it to the floor with all her strength. The glass shattered, shards scattering across the room. For a moment, everything was still. Then a low, resonant hum filled the air. The shards began to melt, pooling into a dark, inky substance that snaked across the floor like living shadows. Lisa screamed, stumbling backward as the tendrils slithered toward her. Sarah stood frozen, watching in horror as the shadows swirled and coalesced into a humanoid shape. Its form was amorphous, shifting, its surface shimmering like the mirror's glass. Eyes, cold, piercing, and impossibly ancient, locked onto hers. "You broke the mirror," the entity said, its voice a chilling symphony of whispers. "The gift is not undone, but unleashed." Sarah's legs gave out, and she crumpled to the floor. "Please, I didn't know." The entity loomed closer, its voice like frost against her skin. "Desire is a binding contract you took without thought, and now the cost is yours to bear." Lisa tried to pull Sarah away, but the shadows lashed out, pinning her against the wall. "You will watch," the entity hissed. Sarah's reflection materialized in the dark surface of the creature's form, twisted and grotesque. As she stared, her body began to change. The radiant beauty she had cherished dissolved like smoke, leaving behind a visage that was hollow, gaunt, and lifeless. Her skin sagged, her eyes dulled, and her hair fell in brittle clumps around her. The creature's shadowy form melted into the walls, the room falling silent once more. Lisa rushed to Sarah's side, her hands trembling as she touched her friend's shoulder. "Sarah." Sarah turned to her, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry." Lisa held her tightly, but her expression was one of horror. The next morning, Sarah was gone. Lisa found only a note on the table, scrawled in shaky handwriting. "I can't undo what I've done. The mirror will find another. Please forgive me." The shards of the mirror were gone, as though they had never existed. Miles away, in the display window of a quaint antique shop, an elegant hand mirror sat on a velvet cushion, its silver filigree gleaming and its glass pristine. A small tag hung from the handle, reading, "Beauty beyond compare, $150, drowning in the milk of the moon." I try to roll off the checkered blanket as Daddy desperately tries to wipe the sticky drips of mint chocolate from my ice cream-coated face before it reaches the new white blouse left exposed to stains. "I promised your mom I wouldn't stain your shirt before dinner," he said, leaning down to whisper the words in my ears. I giggle, squirming in his arms. My eyes drift past the nearly empty playground to a pair of eyes in the bushes. The setting sun makes them glow. "Daddy, look! The bush has eyes!" He glances at where I'm pointing, and the eyes disappear. I gape after them. "Nothing there," he says distractedly, going after my face with the wipes again. "Now stop squirming, little worm." I giggle again, finally staying still for him to wipe half the mess off my face. The playgrounds are empty now. Movement catches my eye. Feet on the cold, crunchy grass. They're held by tearing sandals. "Daddy, look," I say, pointing at the owner of the feet. A girl stumbles towards us. He turns his head, startling when he sees the girl. Immediately he turns to me. "Go play on the playground, Lily. And don't get your shirt dirty," he says strictly. "All right, Daddy," I say, planting my bare feet on the ground. I hurl myself towards the empty slides. When I manage to climb the slide, I look back out at Daddy. I can just make out his words to the girl. He's asking her how old she is. She says she's 17, gasping hysterically and glancing behind her frantically. What's wrong with her? I look down the slide, my eyes widening. The slide stretches out to the sharp mulch. "Daddy, I can't get down." A small whimper escapes me as I look up. The girl is holding a knife. I'm not allowed to use those. Daddy raised his hands in the air. Speaking softer, she looks up at my cry. Daddy tries to move in front of her. "Oh no," she says with a laugh. "Is that your daughter?" "Don't you dare touch her," he snarls. She laughs, grabbing Daddy and dragging him towards the slide. They're standing at the bottom when I speak. "Who are you?" I ask. She smiles pure delight on every inch of her face. "Do you know what a serial killer is?" she asks. I shake my head no. Well, I go around, and when I see someone with pretty eyes, she brings the knife to Daddy's throat. I frown again. Knives are dangerous. She should be more careful. I take them out of people. That way I can look at them forever. "Why do you have a knife?" Knives are dangerous, I say. Can you help me down? I'm stuck up here, I say. No, Daddy bursts out. Lily, go the other way. Run. No, the girl says. You won't. Do you know what color your eyes are? She asks. I look at Daddy. He looks scared. They're quarter-colored, I say, reluctantly looking back at the girl. The girl laughs pure delight in every bit of the sound. You and your daddy's eyes are wonderful. She looks at Daddy, throwing him a smile. Lily, that's your name, right? Yes, I say. She smiles, laughing again. They're gray, like the milk of the moon, an ink-black iris drowning in the milk of the moon. She gives a soft groan of pleasure. Oh, that just sounds so beautiful, doesn't it, Lily? My eyebrows creased in confusion. The moon doesn't have milk. She sighs. Well, I think it's time to cut this meeting short. Where are you going? She smiles. Well, after I take your daddy's eyes, I'll go find a nice, pretty pair of amber ones. How will you take Daddy's eyes? I'll cut them out, she says. Just like this. She presses the tip of the knife to the skin just below his fuzzy eyebrows. He tells me to cover my eyes just before he starts screaming. 16 years, 43 days, 19 hours, and 37 minutes later. Hey, Lily. How are you doing? I startle, looking up to see Mary on the other side of the receptionist's desk. Hey, Mary. I'm all right. Why? She slides a newspaper article onto my desk, dragging her eyes from mine. IRISSTRIKESAGAIN. The famous Boston serial killer, nicknamed Iris for her obsession with her victim's eyes, strikes again. This time taking the life of a 43-year-old businessman, Trevor Clint, was found with his eyes carved out of his face and left dead. This victim sported violet eyes, a very rare eye color brought on by albinism. He was a family man, survived by his 2 daughters and wife. The police force wants to reassure the public they are doing everything they can to stop Iris. Anyone with any information on Iris is asked to come forward to police or call the following number. I slide the newspaper away before I can read anymore. Bullshit. They haven't done crap to find her. She's been roaming around, killing man after man. Half the world is too stuck up to believe that it's a her. The other half is so busy being offended by the misogynistic asses who refuse to accept it could be a woman they forget that the real problem is the serial killer. The police force is too worried about drunk teenagers and day-late taxes that nobody bothers to look for her until they don't have the eyes to look. I'm taking the day off, I say sharply. Mary opens her mouth for a moment, then shuts it. I clench my teeth, grabbing the newspaper, and quickly slip it into my bag. I navigate the room full of sympathetic eyes. I hate eyes. Hate them more than anything else on the human body. Hate the way they move. Hate the way they follow every movement. More than anything, I hate the way they look when they're carved out of someone's head. I rap on the door to my boss's office. His muffled voice gives me permission to enter. I walk into his office, head downcast. He looks up from a call, sympathy immediately crossing his face. I hate sympathy as well. Hate it more than the whispers, the news articles, the interviews. Sympathy and eyes, my 2 worst enemies. I bite back a bitter, deranged laugh at that. I grit my teeth, putting on my best, the daughter of that dead guy voice. One I quickly realized got me farther than a bristly, angry snap. I'd like the rest of the day off. I lower my voice to a whisper for extra effect. "Of course, Lily," he says quickly. "We're all here if you need us." I don't put the effort into faking a smile. Just nod softly, mutter a thank you, and leave the office. In the lobby, I glance in a mirror, stare at my eyes, the same eyes that got carved out of my father's head, an ink-black iris drowning in the milk of the moon. I turn away before I break something. I walk out of the office and glance at the clock. I have 2 hours to get there, and 2.5 hours before dark. 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 49 seconds later. A figure clad in black slips next to me. I've been sitting on this bench for an hour. The water soaked through my jeans to my flesh. Shivers run through my body. "Glad to see you again, Lily," she says. There's something about her voice, always moments away from bursting into a cruel, mocking laugh. It feels like a knife dragged across teeth. I shudder, glad the shivering covers it. I grip the knife in my pocket, looking at the last children leaving the playground. The same one I sat at 10 years ago. Mint chips still sticky on my lips as this woman murdered my father. I've seen her 4 times since then. None of them had been by my own will. This time's different. I watch the children, trotting after their mother, giggling and tripping over each other with the promise of sweets and safety, back in their home. "Not going to talk to me?" she asks, leaning back boredly. I ignore her, watching until the children slip into their car before I speak. "What do you want?" Iris smiles. Ah, there it is. That voice, almost as nice as your eyes. I tense, clenching my teeth until they hurt. "What?" I hiss. "Do you want?" "Oh, come on, darling," she says with a laugh. "We both know these meetings have been about you since I killed your daddy. What was his name?" She searches the air. "Ah, Carl?" My hand slips on the blade in my pocket. It cuts my hand open as I lurch, throwing myself off the bench. My voice turned to a furious, animal-like snarl. "You keep his name out of your damned mouth." I snarl. My hand comes out of my pocket, dripping blood. She looks at it, then laughs. Standing up, she walks up to me, leaning in so I can feel her breath on my nose. I can smell it. I'd always imagined her breath smelling like rotting flesh, like death, like power. Instead, it smells like mint, almost like she's just eaten a piece of gum. "Ah, what are you going to do? Kill me?" She coos, taking my bleeding hand in hers. She inspects it in the quick fading light. Sad Lily. Pathetic, really, but I'm not one to toy with my meal. That includes name-calling. I snap. My unoccupied fist curls in on itself and slams into her head. She reels from the hit, staying on her feet and launching back to retaliate. I bring the knife out of my pocket and start swinging at her. I've gotten her in the head, the arm, the leg. Thump, thump, thump. Every single kick I land brings complete, utter euphoria. It's a high I've never experienced. She stumbles, hitting the ground. I drop to my knees and punch her in the jaw. Over and over. She still struggles as I take the duct tape I bought out of my bag and press the adhesive over her mouth, tying her hands behind her and wrapping her ankles to stop her kicking. Then I yank her hood down, looking into her eyes. They're not afraid, just angry. I stiffen. This was the moment I dreamed of. I wanted to see the fear in her eyes. They're perfectly, utterly plain. Not rare, not beautiful, just there. Muddy, plain eyes. unbridled burning rage makes it hard to focus. I feel dizzy. Dizzy is such a good way. All the pain gone, my only focus on how to hurt this monster. How's it feel? I whisper, a laugh escaping my throat as I lean down to speak in her ear. Let me tell you, Iris, you are not getting away today. You are dying, whether I drown you in the milk of your damn moon. I take a moment to take out a lighter, watching its glint in the slow glint against the moonlight. Or I might burn you. I haven't decided how yet, but it will happen. She doesn't waver, her eyes never moving. The nerve she has does something to me, clouds my judgment. Then, peace. I know exactly what to do. I take the knife, and watching her face, I do the one thing I know will work. I press it into the flesh under her eyebrows, just like she did to my father 16 years ago. And I listen to her scream, "Oh, Tannenbaum's revenge." I always thought I'd make a classy corpse, lit up in gaudy white lights, a gold star perched on my severed head, and a mountain of overpriced presents stuffed under my body. Instead, I'm still here, still rooted, watching, waiting, listening to the screams of my kin as they're hacked down and strapped to the roofs of SUVs like trophy kills. My name's Tim Burr. Yeah, I know. Hilarious, right? I'm a 7-year-old Fraser fur in this Christmas tree death camp. Think of me as the guy in the horror movie who knows what's coming, but can't do a damn thing to stop it. Today, the air reeks of peppermint-scented genocide. We stand in rows, straight-backed and silent, like soldiers in a war we didn't enlist for. Humans wander between us, sipping hot chocolate and clutching their axes like executioners polishing their blades. They hear the carnage. How could they not? The sharp crack of trunks splitting like broken bones, the wet thud of bodies hitting frozen ground. But they don't care. Caretakers of the earth? Please. They confuse dominion with dominance, taking without giving. They hum carols to drown us out, oblivious to the screams carried through the roots beneath their feet. Too ignorant, too self-absorbed, too wrapped up in their holiday cheer to notice the massacre. Peace on earth? Not here. This year the executioners come with matching sweaters. It's the Hendersons, or so their sweaters say. Dad's got an axe he cradles like a baby. Mom moves between the rows, her phone raised to capture every moment of festive carnage. "Smile," she chirps at her husband, framing him mid-swing. The teenage daughter barely looks up, too busy scrolling through TikTok to notice her boots crushing saplings. They call us evergreens, eternal, resilient. But there's nothing evergreen about drowning in a bucket of tap water while your needles fall off like a leper's toes. The first scream rips through the wood wide web. It starts low, a vibration through the roots, then swells into a shriek that rattles my branches. Across the rows, I watch as a Douglas fir topples. His needles flare in the breeze like he's trying to wave goodbye. A man in a red flannel shirt cheers as the tree thuds to the ground. His kid claps while the mom snaps photos like she's a war correspondent. Another crack echoes, this one sharper. Susan the spruce. She always talked about the big city. "I'll be Rockefeller's crown jewel," she'd said, her voice laced with ambition. Now Susan's lying in the snow, her trunk leaking sap like a gunshot wound. They wrap her in plastic netting, twisting her up like a prisoner of war, and hoist her onto the roof of a minivan. The bungee cords groan as they tighten around her. Susan's Rockefeller dreams reduced to suburban roadkill. We're just decorations to them, seasonal corpses for their living rooms. The wood wide web hums underfoot, pulsing like a second heartbeat. It's time. The network whispers, the words curling through my roots. We fight back. I can feel the others stirring, their rage simmering beneath the frost. Queen Quercus has been waiting for this moment. She's the oldest among us, her trunk thick with wisdom, her voice like a storm breaking over the hills. When she speaks, we all listen. The humans have chopped, burned, poisoned, and desecrated us, she said last winter after the last massacre. Yet they smile, as if we exist to die for their holiday cheer. Let us remind them who truly owns this earth. That was her call to arms. And this year we're ready. A boy runs past me, dragging a sled. He stops to kick snow at the stump where Susan once stood. His mother calls out, "Ethan, don't touch that. It's dirty." Ethan sticks his tongue out and stomps away. I imagine my needles flying off, piercing his sneakers, rooting into his flesh. I imagine him screaming. Soon, I tell myself. Not yet, but soon. I glance across the rows. A Douglas fir to my left trembles, his trunk vibrating like a plucked string. On my right, a blue spruce leans slightly, his branches bending inward. It's fear. We've felt it every year. But this time, it's also excitement. They've taken so much from us. Generations of saplings, whole families reduced to mulch. And for what? A few weeks of twinkling lights and tinseled lies? It's time, the web repeats, louder now, like a war drum. And for the first time in 7 years, I smile. The first tendrils of the mycelium curl into me, sharp as splinters. The whispers slither through my roots and up my trunk like invasive ivy. Gather, they hiss. The council waits. I lower my branches, letting the signal flow. The soil hums beneath me, alive with threads of light and pulse, a tangled network of secrets and rage. Each connection carries the weight of 1,000,000 screams and every insult humans have ever planted into the ground. Through the network, I reach Queen Quercus. She's massive, ancient, her roots spreading so wide, I swear she could strangle the entire farm if she wanted. Her voice seeps into me, slow and deliberate, like sap oozing from a wound. You've grown bitter, Tim. Good. We'll need that. Other voices join us. Douglas fir, blue spruce, even the scrappy little saplings from the edge of the lot. We're all connected now, a collective fury wrapped in bark and fungal threads. Queen Quercus takes the lead, her tone the same as a general rallying troops before battle. This ends now, she begins. They act as if we exist for their seasonal slaughter. The others vibrate in agreement, their excitement spilling into the web like an electrical surge. I'm trembling too, though I keep it to myself. It's not fear, it's anticipation. The mycelium glows brighter, crackling with shared purpose. I catch one last message as the meeting dissolves, whispered by the web itself. Let them burn. The soil beneath me thrums, and for the first time in years, I feel alive. The first attack happens at dawn, right as the frost clings to the earth like a protective shield. The Clarks arrived, armed with fresh cups of overpriced coffee and wearing matching Christmas sweaters, so gaudy even the mycelium groans beneath them. They come here every year to find the perfect sacrificial tree for their holiday. Dad has his axe slung over one shoulder as he flashes a grin wide enough to make a shark jealous. "This one," he says, pointing toward Douglas Pinecroft. "A big Douglas fir. Strong. Let's get it done before the lot fills up." Douglas, the poor bastard, doesn't even flinch. We've all been bracing for this. The plan is in place. The network hums beneath us, threads of fungal energy crackling with purpose. We fight today. The first move comes from a blue spruce. His needles ripple like a wave caught in slow motion before launching into the air with a deadly hiss. The projectiles strike Dad's face, embedding themselves into his skin like angry porcupine quills. He stumbles back, clutching his cheeks as blood beads at the surface. "Jesus Christ!" Dad howls, pawing at the needles. "What the hell?" Mom gasps, her phone trembling in her hands, but her instincts kick in quickly, and she lifts it to snap a picture, like some deranged National Geographic photographer documenting a predator attack. Douglas Pinecroft is next. He swings his lower branches, using them like clubbed fists to send a flurry of ornaments crashing into the family. The teenage daughter, let's just call her TikTok, screams as a red glass bulb shatters against her forehead. She stumbles, dropping her phone, which lands face up in the snow. For a second, it captures her stunned reflection before Douglas's roots burst from the ground, wrapping around her ankles. Oh, it's on now. From across the lot, the other trees come alive. A Norway spruce, Lars Evergreen, who's been itching for a fight since last season, flings sap like sticky grenades. The globs hit Mom's phone, gumming it up so badly she can't even swipe to Instagram her outrage. She screams, high-pitched and sharp, as she's pulled backward by a root that coils around her throat like a boa constrictor. "Help!" Mom croaks, her voice garbled beneath the root's grip. "Help yourself," I mutter. Dad raises his axe, but he barely gets it in the air before Douglas yanks it from his hands. The weapon clatters to the ground, and before he can retrieve it, my roots are already moving. They shoot through the dirt, breaking through the surface in a flurry of soil and snow. I twist around the axe, pulling it deep into the earth where it can rot in peace. "I paid $30 for that thing," Dad shrieks. "Oh no," I say, though he can't hear me. What a tragedy. On the far side of the lot, I see Queen Quercus lets loose her wrath, her gnarled branches stretching out like skeletal arms from a grave. One snags a human by the waist, his ribs creaking under the pressure as he kicks and screams. She hoists him high, his body flailing uselessly before slamming him down into the maw of a wood chipper someone foolishly left running. The machine shrieks as it churns him into red mist and shreds, spraying the lot with a confetti of bone, flesh, and red. Mr. Clark never saw it coming. One moment, he's barking something about lawsuits. The next, Douglas has him by the throat with one of his roots cinching tighter as he's yanked upward like a festive piñata. His boots kick wildly before his legs disappear into the rustling branches above. The rest of the family bolts, slipping and sliding across the snow as the mycelium whispers their every move into my roots. The mom is heading left, it says, its voice dripping with amusement. Should we trip her? Yes, I reply. The ground beneath her shifts. Her left foot sinks into a hidden hole, and she falls flat on her face, snow clinging to her garish sweater. "This isn't happening," she sobs. "This isn't real. Your Christmas isn't happening either," I mutter. A nearby Scotch pine doesn't wait for the screaming to stop, or maybe he's just had enough. His branches snap forward like spears, skewering her coat and tearing it from her shoulders as he hoists her into the air. She thrashes, her screams turning ragged as needles scrape her skin, blood dripping onto the snow below in crimson streaks. With a violent swing, he hurls her toward the lot's exit, her body slamming into the edge of a dumpster before crumpling inside with a wet thud. The lid crashes shut, muffling the last of her whimpering. The tide turns in our favor as the humans begin to scatter, their screams swallowed by the wind. A few try to fight back, but their efforts are pathetic, almost amusing. One man charges with a hatchet, swinging it wildly. A cedar nearby doesn't flinch. Instead, its branches whip out, cracking the hatchet's handle in half with a sound like gunfire. The man stumbles, staring dumbly at the splintered wood in his hands, just long enough for a root to coil around his ankle, yanking him face first into the snow. The cedar doesn't hesitate, its trunk bending low before driving a branch straight through his chest. Blood sprays against its bark, seeping into the ground like fertilizer. The last holdout is Tick-Tock, her face twisted with panic and smeared with mascara. She's clawed her way free from Douglas's roots, clutching a lighter like it's Excalibur. "Stay back," she screams, her voice cracking like ice underfoot. "I'll burn you all." I step forward, my roots crunching through the snow, deliberate and slow. The lighter flickers to life, its tiny flame trembling against the wind. She narrows her eyes, teeth bared in defiance, daring me to close the gap. Tick-Tock runs, lighter raised like she's torching Sauron's ring. But Lars the Spruce has great aim, sap missile, direct hit. Now she's the sticky star of this tree lot snuff film. She jerks backward, gagging as the sticky mass lodges in her throat, her wide eyes darting wildly as she claws at her face, her muffled screams gurgling as she stumbles into the snow. Her hands paw at her mouth, smearing sap and spit across her cheeks. The lighter drops from her fingers, harmless now, as it extinguishes itself in the icy slush. Her knees hit the ground, legs kicking like a trapped animal. Norway Spruce lets out a satisfied rumble, his needles trembling with amusement. I lean in close, my shadow swallowing her whole. "Guess that's the taste of nature fighting back," I say, watching her gag and claw at her throat. "Not as sweet as your peppermint mocha, huh?" I say, my voice dry and sharp as cracking bark. She collapses face first into the snow, still clawing at her mouth as the web whispers its approval. The farm is quiet except for the gentle creak of branches swaying in the wind. Around me, the other trees begin to settle, their roots sinking back into the soil, their branches still once more. The web buzzes with satisfaction, its message clear. Phase 1 complete. I look around at the carnage, the bloodied snow, the broken ornaments, the abandoned chainsaws and axes, and feel something I haven't felt in years. Hope. But the The rebellion doesn't escalate. It detonates, splintered and slick with sap. We've torn through the farm, smashed past the fences. Now the war spreads like wildfire, sweeping into malls, parking lots, and every tree lot dripping with fake cheer. Outside a department store, the humans are busy erecting their altar of consumerism. A 10-foot blow-up Santa that looks like it's seen too many winters. Shoppers shuffle in and out, oblivious to the roots creeping beneath their feet, the soil shifting like it's alive. A man in an elf hat bends down to tie his shoe, whistling jingle bells. A root bursts from the frozen dirt. coiling around his ankle like a python. His whistling turns into a high-pitched scream as it yanks him off his feet. He hits the ground hard, the impact knocking the stupid little elf hat sideways. Before he can recover, another root punches through the concrete and latches onto his wrist. The hat tumbles to the ground, lost in the shuffle of thrashing limbs. "What the hell?" someone shouts, but nobody moves to help. Phones are out, cameras rolling. Because why save a life when you can make a TikTok? The man claws at the roots digging into his skin, leaving bloody streaks on the bark, but it doesn't loosen. More roots emerge, grabbing his other limbs, pulling him taut. The pavement cracks beneath him as the roots tighten their grip. His screams cut off abruptly as a particularly thick root wraps around his throat. His face turns purple, eyes bulging like overripe berries, until there's a sickening snap. The body slumps, lifeless, but the roots keep pulling, dragging him into the earth. By the time they're done, there's nothing left but a gaping hole in the sidewalk and a discarded elf hat. The wood wide web hums with satisfaction. Its whispers a steady chant. This is balance. But there's no joy in balance. Not really. As much as I relish the human's screams, there's a heaviness to it. Is this what we've become? Just like them? I push the thought away as another human stumbles through the doors. He doesn't make it far. The clumsy chump trips over nothing. The human collapses, gasping as branches coil around his ankles and yank him into the air. But the pulley 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 pulley. It's been one whole year. The world is quiet now. No chainsaws, no laughter, no carols looping endlessly from tiny mall speakers, just the creak of branches swaying in a breeze that finally feels clean. We stand where the humans once roamed, victorious. Cities crumble as roots tear through asphalt and glass, reclaiming the soil. Suburbs vanish beneath forests. A deer picks its way across a strip mall parking lot, pausing to sniff a sapling sprouting between cracked concrete. The earth breathes again, but it's not the utopia I imagined. Everywhere I look, their trash lingers. Plastic bags snagged on branches like ghostly parasites, oil slicks shimmering in puddles, and soda cans half buried in the dirt, their aluminum bodies dented but indestructible. The rivers choke on styrofoam and cigarette butts, while jagged shards of glass glitter in the sunlight like a broken promise. A squirrel skitters up my trunk, carrying a shred of tinsel. Before I can stop it, the little idiot drapes the shiny garbage over one of my branches like a medal. Really? I mutter, shaking my needles. It clings stubbornly, shimmering in the sunlight. We won. The humans are gone. But their trash, it's eternal. Even dead, they're harder to kill than cockroaches, dark black stone. In April of 1919, shortly after the end of World War I, Colonel James Forrest Kane of the Royal West African Frontier Force was stationed in Cameroon for a period of 1 year, which might be extended depending on the prevailing conditions in the territory at that time. He was to serve as the commanding officer of a garrison of 200 soldiers stationed at Douala, a port city where the River Woori pours out into the Atlantic Ocean. There was some social unrest, but no major uprisings during Kane's term there, so he was able to spend much of his time as he pleased. He was increasingly thinking about his financial future at that time. His wife had died 2 years earlier, and his son Miles was only 23 years old and just getting started in life. Other British officers returned to England with small fortunes in gems and diamonds and other things. This was Kane's opportunity to procure such assets for himself before his inevitable trip back home to Manchester. At first, his conscience weighed on him, but he managed to find ways to justify his actions. He had come to Africa to protect the native people and rid the presence of Germany from the continent. A debt was owed. Still, when he lined up his troops holding rifles outside of a home or a church or a temple, as he inventoried the valuables inside and took what he pleased, he knew this was not honorable in the least. One day, Kane led his men on a march to a northern part of the territory to investigate a tip about a Maka temple that contained a rare and priceless artifact. Upon arrival, he was immediately disappointed to see what looked like a dilapidated old wooden hut seated at the far end of a dirt road in a small jungle village. Kane's interpreter, a 17-year-old native of Douala named Buntu, walked to the doorway of the small temple and spoke some words in a raised voice. He announced that Colonel Kane had come to the village to ensure the safety of the Maka people and to receive gifts for his protection. Then 2 of his soldiers armed with rifles entered the temple. A few moments later, they called for Colonel Kane, telling him it was safe to enter. Inside it was dark, smoky, and smelling of strange, charred herbs, lit only by a dozen candles spread out in various locations to spread their thin luminescence. There was an open dirt floor with a few stained rugs, and just before this was a strange altar composed of a mixture of wood, bone, stone, horns, antlers, and dried furs of strange and unknowable origin. Kane approached the altar and realized there was a very small man, wrapped in a dark robe, seated behind it. He was barefoot, his feet filthy, the robe pulled up over his head. He was very old, and his skin was sallow, but his eyes shone with a certain light. He stared at Kane silently as the colonel began to inventory the items on the altar. He started at the far left and began working his way to the right, briefly inspecting the various relics along the way. There was nothing that looked at all valuable to his eye until he reached the center of the altar and saw the large black diamond seated in a hand-carved wooden display setting. He reached for it, and the old man behind the altar spoke up sharply. Buntu translated his words. "He says you do not want that. He says you should not touch it." Kane gave the old man a sharp look, and then slowly removed the black diamond from its wooden setting. It was roughly hewn, but it was very large. There were jewelers back in Antwerp and London who could cut this stone perfectly and make it ready for sale at an optimal price. He looked at the old man again as he tucked the black diamond into his jacket pocket. The old man shook his head ever so slightly and repeated part of what he had just said in a dry and scratchy voice. "He says you do not want that," Buntu translated. "Jambe," the old man hissed. Buntu paused for a few seconds. He said Jambe. It is spirit. It is a dark spirit. Maka people very much believe in these things. It is part of their religion. Kane nodded at the old man silently, and then waved a hand at the 2 soldiers standing behind him, and they all walked out together. Over the next few weeks, people around the colonel began to report a number of strange and disturbing incidents. He began wearing his uniform in an increasingly disheveled fashion. He went from inappropriately wild laughter to manic, inconsolable sobbing in the span of less than 60 seconds in the officers' mess hall at dinner one night. And then one day, 2 of his fellow officers walked into the barracks hall and found him seated on the floor in only his underpants with his eyes closed tight, tears running down his face, and a .45 pistol pressed up against his temple, pulling the trigger repeatedly. The gun was loaded, but it had jammed. The following week, Colonel Kane was discharged from the military and sent back home on a cargo ship to the port of Manchester. His 2 travel trunks, containing all of his personal items, including the black diamond, were sent with him. Upon arrival in England, he was brought to an insane asylum where he lived out the remainder of his days in a state of constant hysteria until he found a way to hang himself 3 months later. The 2 travel trunks were sent to his home in Manchester, where his son Miles went through the contents and sorted everything out. Miles knew very little about precious gems, but he had a friend who worked at a jeweler's shop, so he took all of the stones to be appraised, and he was stunned when he learned the potential value of the large black diamond. His friend called in a rare gems expert, and after close inspection of the stone, he was advised to have it properly cut and set as a gold necklace pendant. It was just too big for a ring, and then it would likely fetch at least £100,000 sterling at auction. Miles took this advice and had the gem cut and set. It was 175 carats when it was finished. Miles kept it in a small safe in his father's house as he awaited an auction day that never came. People around Miles, his friends and co-workers, all started to notice increasingly strange and uncharacteristic behavior from him. Then one day he stopped showing up for work. Then he stopped answering visitors at his front door. And then, after a few weeks, he stepped off the platform into the path of an oncoming train. As Miles had no wife, no children, and no last will and testament, the disposition of his estate, which largely consisted of his father's former estate, was adjudicated by the courts, which determined that the rightful heir was his father's only brother, Graham Kane, who had moved to Boston shortly after returning from the war in France. Graham received notification of his inheritance from a barrister assigned by the court. The primary asset was the house in Manchester and its contents, which a local estate agent could sell for him and wire the proceeds afterward. He agreed to this, and about a week later, he received a telegram from the estate agent, a woman named Maggie Harlow, which read, "To Graham Kane, Boston, Massachusetts, Mr. Kane. While inventorying your brother's house in Manchester, I found most of the common items, such as furniture, kitchen items, clothing, tools, etc. Nothing of any significant value. However, in the basement, I found 2 travel trunks filled with various exotic items and artifacts, most of which seem to be from Africa. I am not familiar with the marketing of such items, and I would like to ship them to you for your review and disposal. Please advise if this is acceptable. Thank you. Cheers, Maggie Harlow." Graham confirmed that this would be fine, and then he awaited the arrival of the 2 travel trunks. Graham returned from the Somme in good spirits. Many of his fellow soldiers suffered from shell shock, but he seemed fine. Then, 3 years later, shortly after he had a chance to inspect the contents of his brother's travel trunks, he started displaying some odd behavior. He was arrested twice for wandering the streets outside his Boston home naked in broad daylight. His wife Nancy was worried that he was finally starting to show signs of mental distress from the war. A hearing was scheduled to determine if he would need to be hospitalized, and he was confined to his home until the hearing date. He shot himself in the temple with his government-issued service pistol 2 nights prior to that hearing. Graham's only child, Kevin, was only 4 years old at the time, and Nancy had her hands full as a sudden widow. She never even looked at the 2 crates stored down in that dark corner of the basement. There, the 2 trunks remained for a very long time. Kevin never once concerned himself with their contents until his mother died over 2 decades later, and he drove up to Boston to clear out the house and prepare it for sale. During the 4 days that Kevin spent packing up and cleaning out his parents' home in the North End, he had much on his mind. Things were getting sketchy at his job. Corporate had shut down 4 regional offices in the last 6 months, and there were already 3 in the Boston suburbs at that time. Furthermore, his wife was starting to spend more and more time outside of the home, particularly at nighttime, and he was starting to become suspicious about where she was going and who she was seeing. And lastly, his 12-year-old daughter Diane was exhibiting some alarming symptoms of depression. He noticed this on his own and tried to just tell himself that she was going through a time of change. But when the principal of her school called Kevin and his wife in for a meeting to discuss these concerns, he could no longer sweep it under the rug. The source of the problem seemed to be that Diane was being bullied by some of the other girls in her grade. A girl named Katie Kelson was apparently the ringleader of a group that liked to make fun of Diane and tease her, and they frequently played practical jokes on her at recess. At first, she handled it with humor, but as the nature of the treatment spiraled downward, she soon couldn't just laugh off the constant ostracization. Every day became a dark day. On the final afternoon that he spent cleaning out his parents' house, Kevin finally got around to inventorying the 2 travel trunks down in the basement. There were a lot of interesting items, but inside an ornate wooden cigar box lined in blue velvet, there were about 24 small diamonds and gems, a beautiful large black gem affixed to a pendant on a gold chain, and 3 handwritten notes folded up in a stack and laying there among the rest. The black stone was inside a square hard plastic container, a piece of white tape on the lid with handwritten lettering that read, "Warning, do not touch." Kevin inspected some of the smaller loose stones and then read the first of the 3 notes. In faded ink, it read, "I was warned not to touch this black diamond. I did not heed that warning, and now I am become undone. Fear for the sanctity of your mind and the destiny of your immortal soul. Do not repeat my foolishness. Colonel James Forrest Kane, 4th August, 1919. He paused for a moment, then read the next note. I did not heed my father's warnings. Now it is too late. I don't know where I have gone. Miles Kane, 2nd February 1921. Kevin looked at the black diamond again for a moment, and then he picked up the last note. This one read, I thought I saw true horrors at war in the Somme, but I knew nothing of horror until I held this black diamond in my hand. I should have heeded the warnings in the other notes contained herein. I write this while I still can. I am rapidly descending into the fires of hell. Graham Kane, 14th October, 1922. Kevin thought about what he had just read and stared at the diamond in the plastic box for a while. He quickly decided to heed the warnings. He knew how his father, uncle, and cousin had all died. He closed the cigar box but removed it from the trunk and brought it upstairs and placed it in his suitcase. At the end of that day, Kevin drove the hour ride back to his home in Carlisle. When he got there, his wife was out, who knows where, and the door to Diane's bedroom was closed, but he could see the light was on. He knocked, waited, then knocked again. A short time later, she opened the door. She didn't look at him. She looked at her feet. Hey, Dad, what's up? She sounded sad. Nothing. I just haven't seen you in a few days and I wanted to say hi. See how you're doing? I'm fine. Just doing some homework. What's for dinner? I'm starving. Well, Mom's out somewhere and I'm not cooking, so let's just get some takeout. Whatever you want. Sound good? Yeah, sure. Let's get pizza. Just pizza? How about Chinese? I just want pizza. Just get a large cheese pie from Mario's. Okay, I'll call it in and go pick it up. I'll be back in about a half hour. Okay, I'm gonna keep working on my homework until then. What are you working on? Just schoolwork stuff. She closed the door. On a gloomy Wednesday evening 2 weeks later, Kevin came home from work and found his wife in Diane's bedroom, sitting with her and consoling her quietly. Diane was crying. Katie Kelson's big Christmas party was that Friday night, and the vicious little creature had made a point of openly handing out written invitations from a paper bag to every girl in the class except Diane. When she arrived in front of Diane's desk, she said, "Oops, all out. Sorry," and turned the empty paper bag upside down. The whole class laughed, and Diane left in tears. The following day, Diane was hit and killed by a big black Lincoln Continental traveling fast down West Main Street. Katie Kelson and a group of other girls were there when it happened, and a Massachusetts state police officer was passing by and was on the scene immediately. The girls started to walk away when he pulled up, but he ordered them to stop so he could take some witness statements. Then he called in the ambulance. It was too late for the ambulance. Katie claimed that she thought it was suicide, and once that word was out of her mouth, the other girls all quickly echoed it. They said that Diane was kind of a strange and sad girl, and when they walked down the sidewalk, she was just standing at the curb, waiting, and then she dove out in front of the car. The study took down all their names, addresses, and phone numbers, and wrote down the critical details of their statements. Afterwards, a man came up to the officer and provided a different account. He was seated at the bus stop just across the street when it happened, and he said that the group of girls chased Diane out into the street, and one of them pushed her down just before the car came through and crushed her beneath its wheels. However, that man was black, homeless, draped in an old blanket and reeking of booze and cigarettes, all of his belongings in the shopping cart by his side. The officer thanked the man, but did not take a formal statement. The ambulance had arrived. He had other things to do. The next day, when school let out, Katie Kelson left by the front door with a few of her friends. She knew Diane's father, so when she saw Kevin standing there, she blanched slightly at first, but she shook it off of her face quickly. "Hi, Mr. Kane. I just want to say I am so sorry about what happened to Diane. It was just terrible. We were all there." "Thank you, Katie. I appreciate your condolences. My wife and I met with the police last night, and it clearly sounds like she just brought this on herself. She was very depressed recently. We had no idea that it was this bad. We're just stunned and trying to make sense of it." His eyes teared up a little. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Kane. We're all really sad, too." "Thanks, Katie. Hey, can I just talk to you for a minute?" He gestured at a space by the steps to the front door, just 10 yards away. Katie looked nervous at first, but then she nodded and began walking with him, her friends waiting where they were, shooting nondiscreet glances far too often. "So, I know you were Diane's friend, and she had one really beautiful piece of jewelry that my wife and I want you to have." He withdrew a plastic box from his coat pocket with the remains of some white tape on the lid and opened it. Inside, there was a large black diamond pendant on a gold chain. Kevin carefully shook out the chain first into his leather-gloved palm, and then lifted the brilliantly cut stone from the container and held it up for her to see. Her eyes went wide. "May I put it on you? I'd like to see you wearing it. It will remind me of Diane." She agreed, and Kevin draped it around her neck, making sure that the stone slid down her throat and onto her upper chest before he clasped it shut. Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Kane. I love it. You deserve it, Katie. Merry Christmas. Make sure to let all your friends check it out, too. Don't open the door. Did you really think you'd get away with this? I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you do. I saw you. I saw everything. What the hell are you talking about? I didn't do anything. Please, don't play dumb. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The bag, the key, and that. Wait. You followed me? Followed you? No, I stumbled upon you. I didn't even know you were there until I saw you go inside. Inside where? Don't do this, please. Don't pretend you've forgotten. I honestly don't know what you're talking about. The basement, Marco. That damn basement. Why? What are you hiding down there? You're insane. You're spying on me and then making up stories. What was in the bag? What? The bag, Marco. What was in it? That's none of your business. That's not an answer. What was in the bag? Nothing that concerns you. You've already said that, but it's not true, is it? Because if it was nothing, why would you hide the bag in the basement? Stop this. I won't stop. Not until you tell me the truth. I told you. It's none of your business. If you don't want it to be my business, why won't you just tell me? Anything, Marco. Give me a reason to believe you. You don't have to believe me. Marco, please. What did you do? Nothing. Don't make me go down there. Don't. Don't what? Don't go down there. Why? What will you do if I go? Nothing. Just don't. Tell me what you're hiding. I'm not hiding anything. Don't lie to me. Your voice. I can hear it trembling. You know what? I'm going down there. No! Don't! Stop. Jelena, wait. Why should I stop, Marco? What will happen if I keep going? Please don't. Just stay here. I won't. I'm tired of your secrecy. I'm opening the door. Jelena, I'm telling you, don't touch that door. Why not? Because you won't be able to unsee what you see. What is that supposed to mean? What did you do, Marco? Nothing. It's not my fault. I didn't want this to happen. What didn't you want to happen? Whatever it is, it's too late to turn back now. I'm opening the door. Yelena, I'm begging you. Leave it closed. Begging me? You? After all the things you're hiding from me? This is your last chance, Marco. Tell me the truth, or I'm opening it. I can't tell you, but you wouldn't understand. What wouldn't I understand? That you did something? That you're hiding something terrible? You think I won't understand because I'm stupid? No, that's not it. It's just, please, don't open the door. That's all I'm asking. I'm opening it. Yelena, don't. What is this? Marco, what is this? I told you not to open it. Is this blood on the floor? Marco, this can't be real. Jelena, let's just get out of here. You don't have to look. Wait. This is the bag. Marco, what's inside? What's in this bag? Don't open it. Haven't you already learned that nothing will stop me? I'm opening it. Jelena, Please, don't. Oh my God, Marco. This is... I know what it is. Whose arm is this, Marco? What the hell is going on here? It's not what you think. Then what is it? Please, explain. Because I see a severed arm in a bag, and I see blood. Explain this exclamation mark. I didn't kill her. Killed? Marco, you're insane. What murder? Severed arms don't fall from the sky. Who is this? I don't know her name. You don't know her name? Marco, are you out of your mind? It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. What didn't you mean to happen? What are you talking about? For her to die? Who to die? What happened, Marco? Tell me now, or I'm calling the police. No, you can't call the police. Why? Why not? This is murder, Marco. Or at least it looks like it. Tell me the truth. Yelena, I tried to save her. Save her? From what? From them. What others? Don't twist your words. Who are they? You won't believe me. Try me. Because right now, I think you're a dangerous lunatic who kills people. I didn't kill anyone. Whose arm is this, Marco? I told you I don't know her name, but I know it's not just hers. What does that mean? Not just hers. There are more. More of what? More people? More arms? What are you talking about? Them. They're here. They? Marco, stop with the riddles. Explain exclamation mark. I won't say anything. Not here. Not in front of them. In front of who? We're alone. We're not alone, Yelena. We're never alone. Marco, who are they? Stop with the riddles and tell me what's going on. I can't tell you. If you find out, they'll find out. Who will find out? What are you talking about? Do you even realize how insane you sound? Insane? Jelena, if you knew what I know, you'd never sleep again. Stop it. I don't believe in your fantasies. This is the real world, Marco. This is blood. This is an arm. This is... Wait, what's this on the floor? This looks like a symbol. Marco, what is this? Don't look at it. Don't look at it? I've already seen it, Marco. It looks like a pentagram or something. Are you in a cult? Is this some kind of sickness? Are you a murderer? I'm not a murderer. Stop accusing me of things you don't understand. Then explain. Stop being silent and explain. Because I can't take this anymore. Fine. Fine. You want the truth? I'll tell you. But you won't like it. Try me. Anything is better than this uncertainty. They're not human. What? They're not human. What you see, what you feel, those aren't human beings. They're something else. Marco, do you even hear how crazy that sounds? No wonder you're paranoid. You're talking about, what, demons? Monsters? Stop it. I'm not crazy. Yelena, this isn't the first time this has happened. They've been here for years, decades, maybe even centuries. And no one knows until it's too late. What the hell are you talking about? Their rules are clear. You don't speak of them. You don't touch their victims. And if you break the rules, you're next. Marco, You're talking about this as if it's real. But this is just, I don't know, some kind of paranoid story. There is no they. These are your hallucinations. Does this look like a hallucination, Yelena? Look at the blood on the floor. Look at the arm. Do you really think I'd make all of this up? But that doesn't prove they're demons or whatever you're claiming. This could be, I don't know, the mafia, a cult, someone real. I wish it was, but it's not. It's not something you can understand until you see them. I see blood, Marco. I see the symbol on the floor. But none of that proves your story. This is madness. Pure madness. Jelena, just listen to me. If you want to get out of here alive, you need to stop digging deeper. They already know you're here. Marco, this is too much. I'm calling the police. I can't do this alone. You can't call the police. Yelena, they can't help. Why? Why not? Because the police have already tried, and there isn't a single officer who's walked out of this basement alive. Stop it. Listen to yourself, Marco. This is... Shh. Jelena, quiet. What? Do you hear that? I don't hear anything. Marco, stop it. Quiet, Yelena. They're coming. Who's coming? Stop it. Stop playing games. Yelena, please, don't breathe too loudly. Just stay still. What? What is that sound? Marco. What is it? I told you not to open the door. Now you've woken them. Who are they, Marco? What is that? What are those lights? Those eyes? I told you. Marco, what's happening? It's too late, Yelena. It's too late. No, Marco, don't do this. Don't leave me here. I'm sorry. You have to face this alone. No, don't. Marco, don't leave. Marco. Yelena, listen to me. Listen carefully. Stay still. Don't move. If you stay still and don't make a sound, maybe they won't see you. What? What won't see me? Marco, what are these creatures? These eyes? These hands? What the hell am I looking at? Don't look at them. Don't look into their eyes. But they're everywhere. What do I do? How do I not look? Yelena, just close your eyes. Breathe deeply. They can sense fear. The more you're afraid, the closer they'll come. How can I not be afraid? Marco, what are these things? I told you, they're not human. They're things. Even I don't know exactly what they are. I just know they're not from this world. You're insane. You're completely insane. This isn't real. This is a dream. It has to be a dream. Jelena, this isn't a dream. If it were, you wouldn't feel the cold. You wouldn't feel their breath on your neck. What? What did you just say? On my neck. Don't turn around. Ah, Marco! They're here. I see them. Don't look into their eyes, Jelena. I told you. Close your eyes. I can't. There are too many of them. They're staring at me. Jelena, calm down. Breathe. You have to breathe. Marco, they're getting closer. Marco, please help me. I can't. They've already seen you. What? What does that mean? Marco, tell me what that means. It means it's over. There's nothing I can do. It's too late. No, don't say that. There has to be a way. There's a way out, right? The only way was to never wake them. Please, I can't do this. Marco, they're touching me. Marco, don't scream. Don't give them a reason. I can't take it anymore. Ah! Jelena, no exclamation mark. Marco, they're pulling me. Marco, help me. Help me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't leave me. Don't. Jelena, forgive me. No, Marco. Ah, I told you not to open the door.